Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely reverse engineer the multi-decade blueprint that led to China, and specifically domestic automakers like BYD, achieving absolute dominance in the global EV sector. We're breaking down exactly how China beat Tesla, and in the process, completely reshaped the entire automotive world.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. To truly grasp the massive scale of this shift, we actually have to rewind a bit to 2011. Picture this. Elon Musk is in an interview, and he publicly and literally laughs off the idea of the Chinese automaker BYD being a serious competitor to Tesla. And hey, to be fair, that was a pretty common sentiment at the time, right? Western dominance in the auto industry felt completely, undeniably secure. But, well, that dismissal has aged incredibly poorly when you look at today's reality.
2.26 million. Now, that's not just a big, abstract number. That represents BYD's battery-powered vehicle sales in 2023 alone. With that figure, BYD officially dethroned Tesla by nearly 700,000 units. It was a massive, historic blow to Western EV supremacy. So how exactly did they pull off this spectacular overtake? It certainly wasn't a sudden stroke of luck, and it wasn't just about designing a cool-looking car. It actually started decades ago with a fundamental ground-up strategy, quite literally. Layer 1, controlling the dirt. Think about it. Before you can build millions of electric cars, you've got to have the raw materials to make them. Way back in 1992, China's leader Deng Xiaoping actually compared China's rare earth resources to the Middle East's oil. He absolutely knew what was coming. And the immense Bayan Obo mine is a perfect example of how China took that vision to heart. They managed to secure a staggering 36.7% of the globe's proven economic reserves of rare earth elements. But here's the thing. China didn't just stop at its own borders. They rolled out a strategy that's remarkably similar to the ancient Chinese board game Go. If you've never played, the whole objective in Go is to occupy territory, surround your adversaries, and basically deny them a viable position on the board. This strategy is exactly why Western automakers are struggling so hard to find affordable materials today. Through its massive Belt and Road Initiative, China expanded its mining investments across 5 continents. They were locking up long-term supply contracts and acquiring mines everywhere from Africa to Latin America. And the end result of that aggressive acquisition? A breathtaking global bottleneck. Today, Chinese companies control over 98% of the vital LFP, that's lithium iron phosphate battery production market. 98%. Let that sink in.
And this dominance extends straight down the line through the processing infrastructure too, like the massive port operations in Lianigang. Today, China controls 90% of global refining capacity and 92% of permanent magnet production, which, by the way, are absolutely essential for electric motors. The crucial takeaway here is this. Before a Western automaker even sketches out a design for an EV, they're already locked into a supply chain entirely dictated by China.
Layer 2, policy, hustle, and guanxi. So controlling the raw materials was just step 1. To build an unstoppable manufacturing machine, the central government enacted some incredibly powerful policies. The real standout was the genius 2018 dual credit system. This policy essentially forced traditional automakers making gas cars, we're talking legacy giants like Volkswagen and General Motors, to financially subsidize EV makers. It was pretty brilliant. If you built gas guzzlers, you got negative credits, and you were illegally forced to buy excess positive credits from EV companies just to stay in business. Just to put into perspective how insanely lucrative this policy was, Tesla China generated $1.58 billion in 2020 purely from selling these regulatory credits. That direct transfer of wealth from legacy automakers literally saved Tesla from a loss-making year. And of course, it also poured billions of dollars of pure profit directly into the pockets of Chinese EV champions like BYD and NIO. Now, while Beijing was setting these top-down rules, local governments were aggressively hustling to hit targets and basically build a market from scratch. It all kicked off with demonstration fleets at the 2008 Olympics. Then in 2011, they launched the 10 Cities, 1,000 Vehicles project. The government essentially told cities, replace your public fleets with EVs and we'll evaluate your political performance based on how well you do it. Fast forward a bit, and we saw massive local government bailouts of struggling startups, what became known as the Hefe model, which actually saved companies like NIO from the brink of total collapse. And BYD, they brilliantly capitalized on this local political pressure. As one of our sources put it perfectly, overnight, all the taxis became BYD EVs. So how did they manage that? They'd go to cities like Shenzhen or Changsha and basically make them an offer they couldn't refuse. Look,
We'll build a massive new factory in your city, bringing in jobs and tax revenue. Or, hey, we'll even build you a light rail system. But in exchange, your city must exclusively buy our electric buses and taxis. This hustle is exactly what sustained BYD through their early critical years.
Layer 3, vertical integration.
Okay, so they had the dirt and they had the government-mandated market. To fully leverage all of this, companies like BYD took a vastly different approach from Western brands. While legacy automakers rely on a highly fragmented network of thousands of different suppliers, BYD controls everything. I mean everything. They go from sourcing the raw lithium directly to assembling the battery in-house, right into manufacturing the final vehicle, all the way to digital fleet integration. This extreme vertical integration creates unbelievable cost efficiencies that Western legacy automakers simply cannot match right now.
And having this tight control over the entire supply chain, it allows for incredibly rapid, targeted technological breakthroughs. Just look at BYD's new Super E platform. Honestly, it's essentially the holy grail of EV tech. It can deliver 400 kilometers of range from just 5 minutes of charging. That is literally as fast as filling up a traditional gas tank, effectively wiping out range anxiety for consumers. To truly understand how deep this goes, an academic analysis from the Fraunhofer Institute maps out the hidden layers of ownership across the supply chain. It shows that even when an EV factory is physically located entirely outside of China, the equity, the patents, and the ultimate operational control very often trace straight back to Chinese firms. The global fallout. Now, as you might expect, this meteoric rise has not been without some serious growing pains. The fierce combination of practically infinite government capital and frantic private investment led to massive domestic overcapacity. By 2015, following some government deregulation, over 60 different EV startups had emerged in China. Everyone wanted to be the next Tesla, but obviously the market couldn't support them all. This led to a brutal period of consolidation, leaving a long trail of bankruptcies. It took down once promising new forces like Hi-Fi and Neta, and left local governments holding massive financial losses. So what do you do when your factories are pumping out millions more cars than your own domestic population can possibly buy? You export them. It's a staggering shift. China went from holding virtually zero global automotive exports back in the year 2000 to capturing a massive 8% share by 2022. They became the 5th largest exporter in the world, unleashing a massive wave of highly competitive, high-quality, and deeply subsidized EVs right onto the global market. And as these Chinese brands successfully push west, with companies like NIO setting up shop and grabbing serious market share in places like Norway and Germany, Western nations are understandably panicking. We're now seeing intense pushback. The European Union is imposing countervailing duties, and other nations are putting up security blockades. They are terrified that this flood of Chinese EVs will completely decimate their legacy automotive industries. Which brings us to the ultimate question we have to ask ourselves today. When we look back at the decades of calculated strategy, the total monopolization of critical minerals, the ruthless local hustle, and the absolute vertical integration that built this empire, can the West actually rebuild its own supply chains from scratch in time? Or is the car you're going to drive in 5 years pretty much guaranteed to be shaped by this exact blueprint? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.